Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. If you've been watching this channel, you know that a little while ago I converted this cherry picker to serve dual function. Of course, it's a cherry picker when it's in the shop, but put them little posts on there, and the bottom one slips into the receiver hitch and the top one slips into the top link of Artie, my little articulating 4x4 tractor. And I use this for a bunch of things, moving stuff around. I've got a couple shops that I move stuff between, and I also used it for skidding logs a couple times, and it worked pretty good. And the problem with it is that when it's in its lowest position, when it's this far away from the tractor, I can lift a pretty good amount of weight, but by the time this gets lifted up to where it's straight out, not only is it really, really high, but it's also kind of far away. And it means that I can only lift about 300 pounds. I mean, that's a lot, but I can only lift about 300 pounds before it doesn't do a wheelie, but what happens is as soon as I turn, I guess the geometry of the articulation makes one of the tires kind of come up off the ground. And when that happens, then the steering goes full lock one way or the other, and that's sort of the end of that. So I have to get out and lower the load back down to the ground, straighten the wheels up, and come up with a new plan. And what I've done in the past is I've just gone ahead and put my front brush hog on it, and that gives me some counterweight, and that allows me to lift 300 pounds. Without that counterweight on there, it's maybe good for 150 or 200 pounds. So that kind of sucks when it's way extended. So I wanted to do something different, and it's also just kind of lame. Like, I mean, it's cool that I did that, whatever, but it's just kind of boring. So I wanted to make something a little bit cooler. So I went to work over the weekend, and I didn't get a single video or even a photo of the in progress of this thing, but I made me a boom pole. Now this is upside down, but just kind of wanted to go and, well, let's turn it up. Let's turn it not upside down. It's actually pretty heavy. There we go. So this is my little boom pole. That goes into the top link, and then I've got a little electric linear actuator, and then this tubing slides in and out, and I've got 4 different positions so I can extend the reach of this thing. And at the moment, on the when it's all the way extended out, it goes from a height of about 17 inches up to just over 46 inches. So it's a pretty good amount. It works out to be about a 5-to-1 ratio. I've got a 6-inch actuator, and then that lifts roughly 29 or 30 inches, so about a 5-to-1 ratio. One thing I did just now, before turning the camera on, is I went ahead and added this center point, because I am going to use this primarily for skidding logs and also lifting stuff. And this gets me a lot closer to my pivot, which means I should be able to lift a whole lot more. But we're going to try it out. I haven't obviously painted or anything, but wanted to kind of point out a few things. This piece right here is just a piece of round stock that I drilled a 5/8 hole in. I think that's 5/8, whatever the top link pin is. Drill a hole in that, and this is just 3/16 wall 2x3 tubing, and then down here I just sort of cut a pie, did a pie cut right there, and then just squeezed this down to make it kind of look cooler. And then likewise over here, and then this is just 1.5 square tubing, 1/4-inch wall. And I haven't figured out yet what I'm going to do for the end of this for a lifting mechanism. I may just make another one of these and have it there, but I also may drill a hole in it, kind of like what they do over here. Just drill a hole through it, and then you run your chain in there and put your pin through the chain. So that may be what I would do also, or I might do both. I don't know. I've also kind of tossed the idea around of mounting my winch up here to the top, and it wouldn't be hard. I just need a little piece of tubing for the receiver to slide into. Well, let's see, where's my winch? Yeah, so I just need a little piece of tubing that this receiver can slide into, just right there. But then the problem becomes, I got to give 12 volts to this, so I need a battery, and then there's also a forward and reverse, an in and out switch, so that needs to be there. So it just ends up being like kind of a mess of extra batteries and wiring all slung out all over everywhere. If it turns out that I need it, then I'll go ahead and do it. But if I don't need it, then I won't do it. One thing I wanted to bring up is I was watching some some maker on YouTube, and it's really kind of a cool dude. He made an infinite range electric little cart. It only goes about 30 miles an hour, but he put a whole bunch of solar panels on it and then made a solar panel trailer. But he's got like millions and millions of views, and whenever he makes stuff, he welds his stuff together. But he's just got a really, really crappy $200 flux core welder, and I'm like, I don't understand why he wouldn't just, and it makes crappy welds, but you get you a good welder, spend a few bucks, open your wallet, get you a good welder, make some good welds, and they're solid and they look nice, and it doesn't make you look like you don't know what you're doing. So anyway, let's put this thing on, and I've also got an unboxing video. Stand by. Well, all right, here we are out in the wild. I pulled these trees down quite a while ago. They've been sitting here since before Christmas, so today I think I'm going to do something about it. Before I get into the chainsaws, here it is. Here's what it looks like installed on the thing. Now with that pickup point right there, that's about halfway between. That's about 12 inches from that pivot to where the actuator point goes, and then it's about 12 or 13 inches there. So that's about a 2-to-1. So if this has got a 560 pounds, that means that theoretically this should be able to lift about 250 or so. I don't have any idea how much this tree weighs, but I'm guessing it's a lot. But let's see how it does. All I gotta do is just come over here to my little, I can't see anything in the sun, but my little auxiliary switch, and then up is up and down is down, and we'll see what it does. It does it, but I'd say that's probably the extent, that's the maximum that this thing will do. I'm gonna go ahead and pull forward and see how it does. All right, I'll cut you back on. Well, okay, I did. That works incredibly well. I don't have a helper today, so I can't get some live action shots, but it's forward or more than it was, and I certainly didn't pull it by hand, so that actually works pretty well. Cool. I've actually got on order, it's an electric over hydraulic actuator, and this has got, like I said, this has got a 500 and something or other pound lift, but this electric over actuator has like an 1,800 pound lift, so it should be able to do this with no problem whatsoever. And the truth is, I don't need to lift it any higher than that. You just want to get the front end off the ground, so to speak, so it's not skidding in the ground. It just makes it a lot easier for the tractor to pull and for the grass that you're pulling through. But anyway, let's go talk about chainsaws. Oh, let me turn this thing off first. I've had a few electric chainsaws in the past. I started with a DeWalt. It was pretty expensive back in the day, but it worked really good for several years. One thing I didn't like about it, on the chain adjusting mechanism, it had like an auto adjuster, so it just had this plastic handle that you unscrewed, and then I think there was another one that you turned to tighten the chain or whatever. But the problem was the little plastic handle, it had a metal nut, and it would tighten down good, but the other half, or the other part of it holding the bar down, was just this rubber stop, so there was a lot of flex in the bar, and that sucked. And it ended up just slinging chains all the time, and I probably maybe could have bought a new bar for it or something, I don't know, but it was very powerful. I'll definitely give it that. I had a skip tooth chain on it, I think that's what they call it, but yeah, it definitely had some power. But I really disliked that adjustment mechanism, so I ended up getting this Heart from Walmart, and I liked it a lot because it's got two metal nuts, and it's got a little tool that you adjust, just like your standard little chainsaw tool, that you adjust it with two nuts and then an actual adjuster screw. So I thought that was really great, and it was like 250 bucks or something like that. It's only a 40 volt. The DeWalt was 60, so a little bit less horsepower, and they're probably made in the same factory for all I know. Who knows about things these days? But of course I've got the bar upside down because that's how you know if you're a real logger, because that's what they do. The problem was that the second or third time I used this thing, it developed a pretty bad leak in the damn bar oil reservoir. So that sucked. So not only did it run through bar oil pretty fast, but it made a hell of a mess in the garage when I set the thing down. So eventually the most recent time I used it, I haven't been running the oil at all. So of course my chain is roasted, and I'm sure the bar is buggered up too. But it really doesn't last very long, and it tends to overheat. I don't know if the motor's overheating or the battery is, but it only lasts maybe a half hour or so of cut time. So that kind of sucks. Now this little dude, this is your Harbor Freight special. This is only 44 bucks, but of course it's a plug-in, and that isn't worth a damn for most uses, because, like, you know, you're only as good as your extension cord. However, hold on. So yeah, with a little cordless one, you've only got so much time to work, of course, unless you got extra batteries, but that's, you know, that's kind of expensive and a pain in the butt. Like I said, this thing was 44 bucks, but they're not really practical because, you know, you got to be kind of close to the house, or you got to haul around a generator, which is noisy and expensive, and you might as well just get a gas saw. But if you had a way to have a big battery that you could just sort of drag around with you, wouldn't that be nice? This is a little 2,000 watt Chinesium inverter that I've had for a long time, and I just got it mounted on the front receiver hitch, and it just goes into my electric power takeoff auxiliary. I've got that switch switched on, so we've got 110 volts flying out here. Let's take the lid off here. Oh, see what happens. Of course, the first thing that I did was made a mess with the bar oil, because that's what you do anytime you get a chainsaw. So let's how about that? Well, let me see if I can prop this up to get some action shots of this thing working. I don't even know if, well, I mean, it will work. So that's a 9 amp motor and 110 volts. That's 990 watts, which is just a little bit over a horsepower. So that's pretty good. It's certainly more than this had. But with this battery pack, man, this thing ought to be able to, this thing will go for hours. But we'll just have to see if that little Chinesium inverter can deal with the continuous power load on it. Let me get some gloves on and see if I can't set up the camera and get some action shots. All right, maybe this will work. Remember a little while ago when I was yelling at the YouTubers for not spending a little extra money for a proper welder? Well, here I am with an aluminum piece of metal that I had laying around in a zip tie for my selfie stick. All right, let's see how this thing works. Wow, that works great. I don't know how much power it used, so let me reconfigure my, I'll do that right now. Take my selfie stick off. Let's see if I can, let's see here. I'm gonna do this. Let's see. Okay, so over in the lower right, you can see the watts, and that's what we need to look at. right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish chopping all this up, and I'll cut you back on much later. Bye. Oh, there you go. All that is chopped up. These ones down here probably 12-inch, 10-inch. Over there at the end, that's definitely a 14-inch. Just a 14-inch saw. What do I think? I think it's fantastic. I think it would suck if I was tied to my house or my garage with a long extension cord, but I'm about to go down to the river and take care of a little stump. But man, this thing's all right now. Now let's talk about it a little bit. I didn't have any trouble with the chain getting loose. Well, it's a little bit looser than it was, but probably needs to get tightened. And that's really easy. You just loosen this. And then with your hand pull that out. That's it. Now this doesn't do anything. I mean, it does. I guess it would keep your hand from going forward if you let go, but it's not a brake. When you let off of the trigger, this thing just kind of coasts down. So there's no brake in it at all. So I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a safe saw, but I mean, it's $45. So, you know, for that, I think this works great. And you couple that with a big battery, man. And then I went back and looked at the video, and it looks like it pulls about 1,000 watts. And that's, say, a 4 kilowatt hour battery. So that means that on a full charge, that could saw for 4 hours constant. Now, you know, it's no good if you work in a logging industry. But I mean, if you did and you wanted to use that, you just get a bigger battery. So what I don't know is, I don't remember what the percentage was, but I'll put that here. And that's, so that kind of shows, and I don't really even know how long it took to do it, but I'll put that here. And I'm impressed. I like it. I think it's great. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up and head down to the river. One thing that's a little bit annoying, of course, is you got to lug the cord around and it gets stuck on stuff, of course. But, and then also, what do you do with all this mess whenever you go downfield a little bit? You got the same problem with a gas-powered saw, though. You got to bring your fuel tank with you and your mix and all that other crap. But I think what I could do is I can make like a little basket that hangs off of the back of that. Yeah, I could do that. That'd be kind of sweet, wouldn't it? All right, I'll see you in a bit. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I got these little stumps. If you couldn't figure it out, that's where the trees came from. But I want to make these into cute little chairs. At the moment, they're kind of tilted back the wrong angle to be comfortable. So I want to try and level those out a little bit if I can. Yeah, and that'll be kind of sweet. All right. Okay, that was a lot for this little saw. Yeah, it's still very, very green wood, and it's obviously more than 14 inches, so that was kind of a lot for this little saw. But I did what I kind of set out to, made 2 little chairs. So let's try out the chairs without falling in the river. Yeah, there we go. That's not so bad, is it? Could be worse ways to spend the day. Well, guys, I'm gonna go back up there and load all that wood into the trailer and take that to work tomorrow. But I thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.